Hey everyone, CW Music Reviews here. I'm CWD, and this is going to be a music review of the new Dropkick Murphys album, 11 Short Stories of Pain and Glory. Dropkick Murphys is the long-running folk punk, folk rock, punk rock group from Boston, and this is their latest full-length album. I believe their first in about 4 years. These guys have been around for about a couple decades now. They definitely have made a name for themselves, primarily for this breakout single of sorts back in the early to mid 2000s. I do remember there being one song that they had featured on the soundtrack for The Departed, but the title escapes me for some reason. And that's pretty much my limited experience with Dropkick Murphys goes. They definitely are a pretty energetic band from what I understand, especially in live performances. The genre that they do play with folk punk, I have quite a bit of experience with though. I do love me some Pogues, I do like Violet Femmes, Andrew Jackson Jihad, some Neutral Milk Hotel songs I believe. There's definitely quite a bit of nuance and familiarity I have with this particular sound of folk music, as well as punk rock in general. So when I heard that they had a new album coming out, I definitely saw no reason why I shouldn't check it out. And maybe this would have been an opportunity to finally get into these guys, since I've been sleeping on their work for a while now. So now that I have listened to this thing, what do I think of it? I do like this album. I definitely think that this is a good album, but I can't say I'm going to be returning to it very often or thinking that it's close to great. Now, this album is about 39 minutes in length. It's about 11 tracks, so it's pretty standard. Matter of fact, I think the accessibility to it does make it feel relatively short. And what you're getting in terms of the sound, it's pretty meat and potatoes folk punk. It's pretty standard punk rock with inclinations towards that folk and even some Celtic punk. You're getting these electric guitars that are kind of blaring every now and again, some pretty forward-thinking drums. I do like some of the bass on this thing. You're also getting, of course, pan flute and bagpipes throughout the course of a good chunk of the tracks here, and they pretty much work pretty seamlessly. I do like how these instrumentals are being treated. I just wish there was more punch in the production. Take tracks like Blood or Rebels with a Cause or maybe Sandlot. There's just a lot more oomph that could have been added to a good chunk of these tracks. So instrumentally, there's nothing wrong with this album. It just leaves a lot more to be demanded. I do like the opening track, the Lonesome Boatman, how it pretty much opens the album off in kind of an energetic and pretty foreboding atmosphere. Especially how slow it starts off with this pan flute solo going on. And then there's these group vocals that go, oh, 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 pretty much replicating the melody of the pan flute. And it's pretty much that for the course of the track, and for whatever reason, it's one of my favorite tracks on the record. The moments I do not like, though, maybe not hate or just strongly dislike, but the ones that don't really rub me the right way, they try to be so overtly hard-hitting that it pretty much comes up as jarring and a little messy. Namely the track Paying My Way, which while preferentially these booming drums would be welcome, it doesn't really mesh all that well with the mix and the rest of the instrumentation. The track Blood is pretty one note for the most part, although I do admire how dense it kind of is. But that's kind of it. There's not really a instrumental performance on the album that I dislike a lot. I think the strongest thing about this album then becomes a good chunk of the lyrics and vocal performances. There's not really a single track you can name on the album that is pretty much lacking in vocal viscera and passion. Tracks like Sandlot, Rebels with a Cause, and especially April 15, 2013, they definitely demonstrate a lot of feeling to what it is they're talking about. Whether it's on a somber note like April 15, 2013, or You'll Never Walk Alone, or on a more entertaining and fun note like I Had a Hat and First Class Loser. These are pretty much vocal performances that will kind of keep you engaged, even if the instrumentals, while pretty good, not really grabbing you in terms of attention. So now we get into the lyrical aspect of the album, the 11 Stories of Pain and Glory. Well, it's kind of a false advertisement because there's not 11 stories at all. I mean, the opening track is pretty much an instrumental with some group vocals. So now we're left with 10 stories, but there's not really a lot of them in terms of pain and glory, or even short stories in general. I mean, they're short stories in a broad and indescript definition, but they're not really all that engaging or particularly interesting. Tracks like Blood and Paying My Way, these are kind of engaging to a certain point, but there's nothing here that's so specific or interesting that Dropkick Murphys are delivering. My favorite lyrical moments are ones that are either silly and are pretty much unapologetically silly in that regard, or they're definitely somber in the tone that they are delivering, which pretty much leads to my favorite track on the album being April 15th, 2013. It's pretty much a song about a retrospective about the Boston Marathon bombing. And I can definitely tell this affected the band on a personal level, given A, they are from Boston, and from what I've researched that they've known quite a few of the victims, and B, this is easily one of the most impassioned and particularly well laid out tracks on the entire album. It's the longest track on the album. It's like this nice, steady, folkish punk thing that they've got going on that really builds particularly well. I do like the emotional and compositional build this track has, and it's pretty much the band saying we're all just people trying to get along. Whether you're a rich person, a poor person, you're someone that has a lot of success in life or a lot of failures, you're just one of all of us that are trying to get along and just survive in this world. And I think that call for unity is particularly important for a city that suffered something like this, as well as maybe this nation entirely, certainly. We need to come together and understand that we're all just trying to get along in life, regardless of what our dispositions are towards government, religion, socio-economic things. At the end of the day, like everyone else, you're just trying to get along in life. I do like the somber note on You'll Never Walk Alone as well, even if it's a cover. I didn't really care for it all that much, but it did grow on me because of the sheer energy the track has, as well as reading about the cover existing because of all the opiate overdoses that they have become all too familiar with on a very scary level. But that's really it in terms of the more somber tracks. Like I said, I don't really care that much for Paying My Way or Blood. There are a couple of tracks of the youthful, coming of age type way with the tracks Rebels with a Cause and Sandlot, especially Sandlot. Sandlot I don't really care that much for, although I do like the sentiment of the track. It's just that if I was to make fun of a band like Dropkick Murphys or a folk punk band of this type of way, the track Sandlot would probably be how I would word the lyricism. It's not a bad track lyrically, it's just not really one that I take all that seriously. But then we get to some of the better tracks on the album. These aren't tracks that I love per se, but they're so entertaining that I just can't not like them. Take the track First Class Loser. It's pretty much an anthem about that guy you just absolutely despise. Someone you would go 6 lanes of traffic away from. This guy parks in handicapped spots, and he's pretty much a first-class loser. There's just a lot about this guy that you just really don't like, and I do like the language all throughout the track. And then there's the track I Had a Hat, which is pretty funny. It's about going in a pub or something and you just lose your hat. Yeah, you're a peaceful, loving guy, but you'd lose your shit if you lost your hat. And then there's a track Kick to the Curb, which with repeated listens I don't really care for as much as I previously did. But it's pretty much about losing everything. You lose your money, you lost your honey, you've also lost your friends and even your enemies who have gone along with your ex-girlfriend, which is kind of funny. I do like how anthemic and catchy these choruses are. A good chunk of these tracks, these choruses and the overall structure of these songs, They definitely sound like tracks that if you were to enter a pub, you would pretty much sing along to, because this definitely has that kind of atmosphere. So overall, there's nothing wrong with this album per se, there's just not that much in terms of greatness to it. I do want to end on the note that the closing track, Until the Next Time, it definitely is what it sounds like. It's a closing track that pretty much says, hey, we had a lot of fun, it's time for us to go, unfortunately. Which is kind of a weird and kind of sort of lazy way to end off your album, especially since it's as short as it is, or as short as it feels like. But I definitely will be looking forward to what the guys got going on for them next, because while I didn't love this thing, I did enjoy what it is Dropkick Murphys have delivered to me. I just hope that with the next album, they improve their viscera, they maybe get some punchier production, and maybe they look more into their lyricism. Maybe they flesh out their lyricism a little more, because whether it's a somber song that really touches the soul in a way, or if it's just a fun, entertaining, and particularly humorous track, they definitely have something going for them within their lyricism. I'm going to be looking forward to what they're going to be dropping next, and maybe kind of look back into their back catalog, because this thing right here, yeah, it's not amazing, but it definitely scratches that itch for that part of me that really does enjoy folk punk music. This album is a plus 1.1 out of plus 3. I don't think I'm going to be returning to this very often, but it might grow on me a little. But if you give this album a listen, what you think of it? Did you like this album? Did you dislike this album? What was your reasoning for that, and what should I consider listening to and reviewing next? This CWD Music Reviews here, signing off.